and welcome to By the Mash Tun, a podcast by a couple of nerds where we brew some beer, drink some beer, and have a nice little chat about some beer. Hello, I'm Mike Harrison Wood.
Hello, I'm Rachael Harrison Wood.
Oh, you're not Cal Noble?
I'm not Cal Noble.
Oh.
Way shorter.
Yes.
Yeah.
You are, in fact, my wonderful wife, Rachael Harrison Wood.
I am.
Yes.
It's true.
So today, Cal can't make it, unfortunately. He has had some emergency work very far away. That means that he can't join us for this brew. So I figured we would brew something that draws upon Rachel's previous experience. And we are making a tea pale ale.
We are indeed. So the tea part, because tea's delicious, and I worked at Whittard of Chelsea, officially, for I think 2 years, a year, I can't remember. It was a while ago now, admittedly, so I've had to do a bit of kind of recap research, but because the level of like customer service is so high there, you really have to know your stuff. And by know your stuff, I mean you have to drink tea constantly. It was a brilliant job. I don't know why I ever left.
Yes, so lots of experience choosing not only the tea, not only the brewing method, but also when and where to add it to the beer.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, lovely. I should say specifically, we're not just using any old tea. We are using Jasmine Green Tea for this brew.
Because we're fancy.
Fancy. And we want that big, lovely flavour. So, it is a pale ale. I'll give you a brief little rundown of the malt base. It's mostly Maris Otter. We all love Maris Otter. You've seen some oats and wheat as well. I've kept that quite low. It's also a bit of Cara Munich. I'm not sure you've tried any of that.
No, I don't think I have.
It's
or at least not raw.
No, I forgot to put out some little samples because there's so much tea on the table. It's wonderful. But whereas Maris Otter is nice and sweet and bready, Munich's got like a little bit more of that roasty. Not roasty, a sort of toastiness. Ooh. Like it's very, very slightly toasted white bread, but still kind of raw. You know, that type of flavour.
Very nice.
And then Cara Munich is much, much more sort of darker,
presumably?
Sweeter. But
I think that will lend itself really nicely to the jasmine.
But there is just a touch of that, like tiny, tiny amount. Perfect for it. Hopefully, we are going fairly light on the hops because obviously we want a lot of that jasmine and a hint of that green tea flavour to come through. And if we hopped with anything too extreme, it would completely swamp it. Boo. Similarly, the yeast, very simple, USO5. It's a classic. We love it.
It's your favourite.
It's so easy and clean and lovely.
Versatile.
Yes. Let's talk about the interesting thing. Let's talk about the tea. What have we got?
What have we got? So we've gone for a very standard, or just like literally Whittard standard Jasmine Green Tea. They don't say what the green tea base is for that, but my best guess is that it's probably a Dragonwell green. It won't be anything particularly single origin or exciting in that respect, but it is a very lovely tea. It's got a wonderful flavour. We've got a couple of brewing methods on the table at the moment, so I'm happily sipping away on some hot tea because I am Picard, and we've also got some cold brew because it's just interesting to see how that differs and what the taste implications are really for kind of hot or cold brewing, which I think will have. Well, we've had to kind of work out what temperature and how to deliver the tea into the beer already. Yes,
and that's something that any brewer is going to be very well aware of. The different stages happening at different temperatures is intrinsic and changes the flavour in quite big ways.
Absolutely.
So tell us, what's there?
So we've got the hot I brewed at 70. Our kettle doesn't do 75, unfortunately, and I just couldn't wait. So a little bit lower than I would normally like. I usually boil the kettle at 80 and then let it cool to 75 before I brew. But I also forgot about it, so I steeped it for about 6 minutes. Whereas normally I would do kind of probably 3 for this tea particularly. But anything kind of more delicate or a bit more expensive, I would err on the side of a shorter brewing time. Yeah. But essentially, the hotter or longer you steep it, the more, especially hotter, the more tannins come out. So bitter, it gets bitter, it gets very vegetal, it gets very, people can say it has sort of a manure-y taste. Ooh. Tastes a bit goaty. which isn't the worst thing in the world as a lover of goat's cheese, but also not necessarily what you want in a floral tea.
No, and probably not what you want in a beer either.
Yeah, no, probably not.
Maybe a scrumpy cider.
Yeah.
Like that. Ooh.
Yeah, it's got that, it's sort of the tannic edge that some of the very tannin heavy ciders have.
Yeah.
But as I said, if your green tea tastes like that, you've probably brewed it a bit wrong.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes, which is an easy mistake to make just because so much of breakfast tea is, well, black tea, and then that is supposed to be at 100, and just that's what you want to get out of it is that tannin and as well as the flavour.
Yeah, keeping it really strong.
Oh, yeah. Talking of the black tea, the sort of high tannin finish of black tea, there was a beer I made about 12 months ago with black tea. Specifically.
Breakfast brew.
Yeah, it was called breakfast brew. It was entirely made with Assam, so not Earl Grey, just black tea. And what I was really trying to experiment with was, instead of having a bitterness from hops that you would tend to see in West Coast IPAs and every beer that you add hops to, I was hoping to get that really sort of astringent sort of black tea tannin finish there instead, just to sort of see what would happen as an experiment, and it turned out kind of weird.
It was kind of weird. I mean, we've drunk it all now. So
yes, it's all gone.
There's that. So. It obviously wasn't bad.
No.
It was a bit weird.
It didn't taste of tea much.
No.
You did get that astringency.
Yes. Yeah.
Which to my palate, it made it fascinating, like really, really interesting, because there was all that flavour and then that certain bitterness that's very different. But the one huge drawback was it wasn't refreshing. It didn't...
No.
Not like a hop dry bitter finish, which makes you want to have another sip. This beer prevented you at all times.
I think because it was quite an early iteration in your brewing career, if you like. It was all 500ml bottles as well, and there was just really not, when we have finished them, so they obviously again weren't that bad, but there was a few times when it was just a bit like, wish this was smaller, or does anyone want to share this? Like, I think we split a few bottles
because there were so many people that were eager to try it as well as an experimental thing. So.
Yeah, I think it's taught you a lot about this one though.
Yes, I now know. Let's not make the tea really astringent.
Yeah,
let's keep it nice.
Yes.
So what is this thing that I'm about to shove in my face?
That is the hot jasmine tea, which was brewed at 70 and steeped for about 6 minutes. So probably a minute or so too long, but it's still nice. It's the same tea that we're going to put in the beer. So again, I think it's probably the base of a Dragonwell green. And then green jasmine tea is, there's no physical bits of jasmine in there. Really? How they make it is it's actually it's a beautiful story. It's really romantic. So they lay out the green tea sort of part way through the processing, because there's various steps in green tea, in all tea processing. And then they pick the jasmine flowers when they're still closed in the morning, possibly the early afternoon. Read some different things and been told various different things. We definitely had a tea that we were told was picked at twilight, which was adorable, but I don't think it's true. But then they have to wait until dusk, because that's when the jasmine opens, and then they lay the jasmine flowers out with the tea, and basically they just lay them together, and the tea leaves absorb the jasmine flavour. And they do that several times, but they have to re-dry the tea in between, because at that point it's already been dried once, and then it's laid with the flowers, and then obviously it absorbs moisture as well as the flavour.
Yeah.
So it's quite a labour-intensive process, which is probably why, there are cheap ones out there, but that's why the very good jasmine teas are just very, very good.
Yeah. It's real nice.
It's nice. It's sort of... It's you can imagine it in a terrible romance novel.
Yes.
Oh, she picked the jasmine flowers and I picked the tea and we fell in love.
And we laid them upon...
Yes. And then we lay on each other.
Yes. So, let's sniff this first of all. Huge jasmine aroma.
Yeah, it's really floral.
Really big.
Yeah.
And lovely. I am a particular fan of jasmine tea. So, one of the reasons why I was so keen to do this. But I'm going in for a sip.
Go for it. It's really lovely. This is the So we probably started recording, or at least setting things up about 20 minutes ago, I think. So it's been stood for a little while, which means obviously the longer tea stands, the more it oxidizes. So I'm on my second cup and I can taste the difference between the first one.
Wow, already?
Yeah, so I just think it's just that little bit, not on the turn, but just that little bit more bitter, that little bit more astringent, just a tiny bit.
And that's something that develops through time, independent of temperature?
Yeah, that's to do with the oxygen, and tea. All tea oxidizes once brewed, which is why if we leave the rest of the cup out overnight, it will be very dark brown or black in the morning.
Yeah, at the moment it's sort of
golden,
ambery, not amber, more like a pale ale basically. Yeah. It does actually look very similar to a pale ale.
Yeah, which is useful.
Fantastic. Yeah, yeah. I know that if the beer suddenly starts looking like a different color, then that's not good. And in contrast, it looks very different to the cold brew tea that you've got as well.
Yeah, so same tea leaves, but we have a cold brew bottle, which is basically just a giant kind of wine bottle shaped thing, but it's got a filter in the top. So you pop the tea leaves in with cold water. I did it yesterday, so it's been in for about 24 hours in the fridge. And basically very, very similar to cold brew coffee. If you brew stuff long and cold, you really can't ruin it at all. You really can't really get like those massive amount of tannins. You can't really get the kind of acrid, astringent, like bitter tastes out of the tea, out of any tea. It's really, really refreshing.
Yes,
I find the floral tea is quite refreshing anyway, but I think cold is just lovely.
Yeah, and it looks colder as well, for want of a better word, because it doesn't have that sort of glowing orange hue to it. It's more like just a pale, like lager, like really just yellow.
So I would assume the difference is to do with, because obviously whenever you're making tea, a certain amount, like a tiny amount, but a certain amount of actual tea will dissolve into the water. Or I suppose not dissolve, disperse, but very tiny amounts.
Yeah.
So I assume it's to do with that, but I don't know particularly what would make the difference between hot and cold in that. Maybe it's the oils.
No.
Hot just releases oils better or something.
Could it be something to do with the fact that the tea being warmer encourages oxidation slightly quicker than a colder beverage?
Yeah, absolutely could be that actually. I really don't know.
Okay. But
speculating.
So much less aroma. Like it's really cold in that regard. Like there are hints and whiffs, and if I'd been drinking nothing but just straight green tea all day, I would sniff this and go, wow, that's so Jasmine.
Floral.
But compared to the hot one, like it's just
it is. And then
tiny.
I've just had a bit, and I think the taste is not. I think it's a very similar taste, but it is kind of a dulled down thing. But you really don't get any of that. Even there's not even like a hint of bitterness. It's really smooth. It's really lovely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some ice cubes, some vodka. That'd be great.
But it doesn't seem sweet either. Like it's very refreshing.
Yeah.
Without being bitter and without being sweet. It's I guess the perfect cold.
I mean, neither of them is sweetened because I'm not insane. So they are just tea and water in the various stages. But I do think Jasmine is a bit like vanilla in the sense that it isn't inherently sweet in itself, but it almost tricks you. Like vanilla's not sweet, but you think it's a sweet thing because it's got something about it that just lends itself to that part of your taste buds and brain and I think Jasmine's like that personally. And
it is, vanilla especially is often associated with sweet stuff because it's always used in sweet stuff.
But then Jasmine's, not. You've got jasmine rice.
Yeah. But just the flavour of that tastes sweet somehow. The hot one, I mean, the hotter one, there's just a bit more. Maybe it is a touch of the oxidation actually rounds it out a bit and gives it a bit more body, for want of a better word.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it really could be. I don't know.
Okay.
I really don't. I think maybe the hot drinks are just have a different.
Yeah, it might just be that it's hot and that's
feel.
Affecting my mouth on a very physical level.
Or possibly because obviously the stuff straight from the fridge has less flavour.
Yeah.
Like fruit and whatnot. So it could be that the cold brew is suffering from, maybe it needs to be left out for an hour, but then it's not cold brew, it's sort of room temperature brew.
Well,
who wants that?
So now we've learned a lot about tea. We must discuss where and when we're putting it in the beer. So you've mentioned a lot about oxidation and the troubles therein.
Trials and tribulations.
Yes, and also the dangers of adding it too hot as well.
Yeah.
So black tea was easy peasy. You put it in the boil.
Yeah.
Not the whole 60 minutes, but I think I put it in just a couple of minutes before flame out to get a little bit of that for the other tea brew. This one, I am staying so far away from the kettle. I don't
it
want
needs to definitely stay away from the hot liquor.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So my plan is to make up a batch of about a litre.
Yeah.
Make a whole brew batch at 75. Maybe like 76, 77, because adding the tea will actually cool it down slightly. I don't know.
That's fine. You've got between like 65 and 81 to play with, so it's not, you're not going to ruin it at that temperature.
And then brew that for 2 minutes, maybe a minute
3,
and a half.
yeah.
2 or 3.
Maybe.
Oh, cool. Let's try it.
I mean, I would. Now you've tasted some, I think I would just go by colour.
Yeah. When
And
it looks right.
see how you feel. Yeah.
Cool. And then take that brewed tea with the leaves as well, which I should have mentioned I will be putting in a hop bag.
Yeah.
And then dumping the entire contents of that glass into the fermenter post-fermentation. So this is going to be the equivalent of dry hopping.
So what temperature is that roughly?
So I'm planning to ferment at about 16, 17 degrees.
Okay.
There is a process you can do when you're brewing called cold crashing. The theory is that you rapidly drop the temperature, and that causes a lot of the yeast and other sediment to fall out of the beer very quickly, leaving all of that sediment there when you drain the fermenter rather than coming into the kegs and into the bottles.
But you don't do that anymore?
No, I am doing that.
Oh, you are doing that this time?
Yes. So the question becomes, do I want to add the brewed tea at fermentation temperatures, or maybe post cold crash? So it goes from that 75 degrees straight down to 3 degrees as quickly as possible, completely removing any chance of extracting tannins.
Yeah, it would be very hard to overbrew it then, because you'd have obviously the brewed tea, but then if you're putting essentially a giant tea bag in,
yes,
but you'd be putting the giant tea bag in already brewed once. Whereas, I mean, green tea you can rebrew a bunch of times anyway, but already brewed once, so that's good. And then it would be going in at sort of 3. Then that's, you're cold brewing essentially. Then that'd be very interesting.
And the other benefit, of course, is that the fermentation process creates a CO2 blanket on top of the liquid.
Comfy.
So obviously we're going to be disturbing that blanket by putting in the liquid, but putting in the tea, sorry. But it should be enough to prevent any oxidation whatsoever. Well, as prevent some, at least, maybe. So yeah, hopefully that CO2, and then when it's in the bottle, when it's in the keg, that CO2 will remain in place, and it will just keep everything nice and as
hopefully
little tannin as possible.
A nice pale golden.
Yes, and I'm not going to keep it in the fermenter for longer than 24 hours either. The plan is, cold crash, drop the tea in, keg it very quickly, and the tea's not going anywhere near the keg. It's not like I know some people chuck hops in kegs sometimes and that sort of thing, but I'm not
and
playing
some people
around with
do
that.
like fruit beers and stick a whole bunch of raspberries in the bottom of kegs, don't they?
Exactly. Yeah. No.
That would play havoc with our lines.
Yes. So I think it's time for beer ye. It's time for the beer news. How does it feel to be involved in some news?
I feel very honoured.
Yay.
Is it new news?
It's not new news.
Oh dear.
It's old news. Well, it's not that old. I've only just found out. So there is a strong tradition in Belgium and other parts of Europe And recently in the US, for a style of beer designated Trappist, meaning that it can only be, I think, brewed by or under the supervision of Trappist monks within the walls of the monastery. Recently, in the past couple of months, there has been England's first Trappist beer coming out. It is called Tint Meadow.
The beer is called that. Or the brew
that is the name of the beer.
Cool.
So now they are joining the others around the world to become the 12th Trappist brewery.
Not a lot.
There's not a lot. They've not been brewing as long as some of the Belgian ones, obviously, but I think it's definitely something to look out for if you see a bottle of it and you like your rich, dark Belgian Trappist beers. Look out for Tint Meadow.
Tint Meadow.
That is Tynt Meadow, spelled like meadow. Hooray.
I assume that's the place or something.
Yes.
I don't know.
I'm definitely going to look out for it. And if we ever do a brew of that sort of darker Belgian Trappist style, we are definitely going to find a bottle of that.
Absolutely.
Nom, 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 nom,
We'll
nom.
check out our friendly local beer shop.
Yeah. I think it's time we tried a beer, don't you?
Yeah, should we try a beer?
Yeah.
Let's try a beer.
So, what have we got first?
We have got Yulu from Sirencraft.
Lovely.
It's very lovely. So, very pale. It doesn't specify what tea it is. It does say loose leaf, which I approve of because tea bags are garbage.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't specify which type of tea. I would posit that since they are alluding to bergamot and lemon notes on the back, that it might be an Earl Grey.
Yes.
But equally, it might be just a kind of standard breakfast black tea, and then they've added the lemon zest and some bergamot oil and that kind of thing.
And for those not in the know, Earl Grey being just a black tea.
Delicious.
With bergamot. And does it have lemon in as well? Or is
No,
it
it's just the bergamot.
bergamot.
You can add lemon, of course.
And bergamot's a type of orange?
Yes, it's a little orange, and it's not the same as there's another bergamot, which is I think the normal bergamot oil, but that's a herb. But yeah, bergamot's a little orange. It's a hybrid of something, but I cannot for the life remember what.
Okay, just added to black tea.
Yeah,
Lovely.
absolutely.
So, as Rachel says, very light, very pale. It's quite weak, this one. It's only 3 point something.
Is it?
Okay. Yes, you've got the bottle.
I have, but also I just tried some, and it doesn't taste. You know, some beers just you go, oh, it's really low ABV, and you go, yeah, obviously I can tell. It is 3.6.
3.6, yes. Yeah, Sirencraft are very good at the very big and the very little. So
Absolutely. They're good with flavours, which is nice. So you do want beer to have flavour.
And that is a very nice flavour. Yes, it's still definitely beer. I'm getting beer, but I'm also getting all those other lovely things, that orange and that lemon.
Yeah.
Coming through. Very strong. Lovely.
It is beer. It is sort of lemony. I'm not getting a huge amount of orange, and I'm not getting any tea. Not like tea.
No.
But then I suppose, similarly to breakfast brew, it's very difficult to get the actual tea flavour. And would you want that necessarily with a bunch of hops and malted barley and the rest of your stuff?
And because I know this particular beer has gone through many iterations in the past as well. There were various beers down this end with all sorts of names with Earl Grey in.
Down this end, strength-wise?
Yes. I've had the very fortunate means of seeing Sirencraft from when they first started and into where they're coming now. So there was The Love of Work or something like that was the first one. And then they did the Vermont Tea
that was
Party.
like 2.9 or something, wasn't it?
It was that might
really
have been
low.
Half-mast.
Oh, yes, half-mast, I'm thinking.
Yes. But yeah, Love of Work was, I believe, an Earl Grey Pale down at 3 point something.
That was
and
really
then
nice.
Vermont Tea Party was another Earl Grey Pale. And then out came Yulu, and it just so much zingier and
it's very
and
fresh.
refreshing.
We've had it before. It's been on at the pub, and we've had bottlers and stuff in. But also, it's just been. It was one of those beers that you just go, oh, the heat wave and this beer. this is perfect.
Lovely.
And it's just really, really refreshing.
Yeah.
And delicious.
Lovely. A prime example of adding a very fruity, delicious tea to your very delicious, easygoing beer.
Absolutely.
Should we try something else?
Yeah, go on then.
Yay.
So what have we got next?
So, staying very local to us, what are based in Reading sorts, we have gone with Wild Weather Ales Storm in a Teacup.
Delicious.
Yes, a very, very... it's spoiler alert, it's very nice. I've had it many times before. Yeah. So, having the excuse to try it out and try out all these lovely tea beers in a row, I leapt at the chance.
Also, it was free.
Yay.
Because your sister brought it round for us.
Yay. Yay.
Woo.
So yeah, it's a bit darker due to the ABV, I presume, being 6%. So going from 3.6 to 6 is going to be quite a jump, but luckily,
I think we'll survive it.
Yeah, it smells good.
It's just lovely. I do think it tastes more like tea.
Yeah.
It is specifically an Earl Grey. Is it an Earl Grey IPA? Just an Earl Grey Pale? Earl Grey IPA. I do think it tastes more like actual tea. Whether that is just because it's stronger and therefore what I'm actually tasting is sort of the normal beer astringency or the tannins in a normal kind of stronger beer rather than actual tea, and my taste buds are fooling me. I have no idea. I don't care. It's really nice and it's got a horse on the can. That's nice.
Getting that the bergamot lingers so much more than anything else.
It's surprisingly a little bit floral.
Yeah.
Which is really lovely. But not floral. It's not floral. It's just a little bit kind of, there's just something there. And if you didn't maybe know before today that bergamot was a tiny little orange, then you maybe would think it potentially was a flower. No, similar.
I think in the mid-range there, I'm getting very big, heavy, sweet orange flavour, which is so nice. It's floral at the start. You got that leafy floral.
It's got a really orangey. I really don't want to use the word nose. Just aroma? Did. Aroma, thank you. It's got a really orangey aroma, which is very pleasant. And a little bit unexpected given it's Earl Grey. But again, bergamots are tiny orange, so I guess not that unexpected.
And as a delicious contrast to the Yulu, it's not got any of that sort of zesty zinginess.
No,
it's more sweet and just lovely.
So even on the Yulu bottle, they do, when the ingredients, it does say they've added lemon zest, which I think you can tell.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think this one, I would guess that they haven't added lemon zest to this, but you do have the can, so you can tell me.
Yes. Let's have a look. No, on the ingredients list is literally tea.
That's it. We're actually just drinking a can of tea.
Very impressive tea.
Yeah.
No, water, malted barley, hops, yeast, tea.
That's great.
Yeah.
I think you can tell. I do. I think you can tell.
Yeah. So fantastic work, Wild Weather. That is really good. And
what a surprise. You've made a beer that we love.
I've had this many times, so this is no surprise. But
so have I.
I've never done a direct comparison with Yulu, so that's been very interesting.
No, yeah.
Okay, next up, what have we got? Well, let's go get it.
Yes.
So for our third and final beer, what do we have? So
it was quite a task finding any green tea beers, any green tea jasmine beers, any jasmine beers. We've been looking for them kind of for the last couple of weeks, and then today, as a thank you for unrelated manual labour, your sister dropped over this rather lovely can of another Wild Weather Ales one. It's called The Complete History. It's a collaboration with Slopes Game Room, which is nice, and it's a jasmine saison at 5.5.
Yes.
So I've never tried this. I've never even heard of it. I did not know they did a jasmine beer. It's very exciting for me.
Yes, we lucked out with that.
Yeah, we really did. So I'm excited to, get it in my face, really.
Already on the nose, it is smelling super saison. Like there are hints of that jasmine flavour coming through, but the saison yeast character is
that comes through much more strongly.
Yes. I'll mention, it's sort of amberish in colour. Not quite sort of crisp, super light saison, but it's quite strong, isn't it? 5.5?
5.5.
How's it tasting?
That's lovely. I It's probably because we've just been drinking a buttload of Jasmine Green Tea. But not getting a huge amount of jasmine, but it's a lovely saison.
I am getting jasmine there.
Oh, maybe I've just dulled myself to it.
Yeah, you've had too much tea.
I'm going to drink some water and then try again.
And that's one of the fascinating things about reviewing beers with your wife is you don't mind completely contradicting her. I'm sorry.
So mean.
Yeah. But wow, just the difference in the aroma and the flavour are huge there. Like the jasmine, I wasn't getting anything in the aroma really, but then just that taste, it's big.
Yeah, no, that's better. I've had some water and it does actually taste like jasmine now, so I think it was just the tea. Yeah, that's just delicious. So really, like, because saisons obviously can be very, well, similar to a badly brewed tea, I suppose. It can be a bit overwhelmingly sort of vegetable manure-y kind of, oh, what is this actual flavour?
You can get a lot of weird funk.
You can get a lot of weird funk. Weird Funk's a terrible band name. But that's just really, it's really nicely balanced. It's quite crisp, actually, I think. Not in a zesty way, just it's very refreshing.
Yeah, I'm going to do a
I don't know where I put my Yulu.
Teacup. Oh, wow. They work so well together as well because they...
You're going to do a new beer blend.
Yeah. Well, they're nice. They're obviously, the jasmine one's a little bit maybe crisper, but the Storm in a Teacup is so sweet and it's just lovely. I'm so glad we had this tea party. But yes, fantastic work, Wild Weather. 2 out of 2 beers there. Brilliant, fantastic work, Craft. A pleasure as always. I believe there is one more beer left to try.
Is it the Wort?
It is the Wort.
Exciting!
Yay! How's it tasting?
Delicious!
Yay! Bye.
Bye.